We're going to be working on our turbidity meter. This here has a light transmitter and a light receiver. Now how it works, it shines light through the water and reflects back, and the receiver receives how much light was able to get passed through the water. Now over here is our readings that we're getting out, and the turbidity will range depending on surface water or groundwater. But it'll be set in there with set point alarms on our control HMI panel. Turbidity is defined as the cloudiness of the water. So the higher turbidity, the more particles are floating around in the water, which also gives pathogens a place to hide from our disinfection treatment of the water. And so for the maintenance, we start by draining the cell and shutting off the water supply. So the water supply is coming from here. We shut this valve off so we can't get any water pushing through when the system's running, this is your fill line here. And as the cell's draining, you want to pull your wiper motor out. Gently wiggle it out, inspect your rubber, make sure there's no cracks, just dry it out. You still want it pliable, so when it's wiping around, it'll clean the system. Check it, make sure there's no cracks, and check that the nut on there is tight. Then we don't want it hanging off the cord, so you want to prop it up somewhere where it's not going to take the weight of the wiper. But you want to use delicate wipes for this because you're cleaning off inside the mirrors that are reflected in here. With this dry paper towel, you want to get all the moisture off the screens. So you just dry them off. And then we use isopropyl rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip. I pour a little bit into my cap, and then I dip a Q-tip into that cap to clean the lenses. Inside, clean off your lenses with the rubbing alcohol and wipe them dry with the dry side of your Q-tip. And then we use our dry cell calibration block to verify that the unit is reading correctly. So on this block, there are two sides. One's zeroing side, and one's a turbidity reading, 0.86 NTU on this block. So at first, with the zero side, you point towards the operator, towards yourself. Line it up in here so that these tabs line up with the slots inside. So this goes in there, and it takes a little bit of force. And you want to push on the body and squish this in there, because if you keep pushing down on top, eventually this unit, the screws will come loose and you'll end up pushing it right off the wall. So once that's in place, we come back to our turbidity reader, and when that zero block is in there, we want to be 0.02 plus or minus of zero. So right now we're reading 0.00, so that's a good reading. So you want to be very careful. You want to be very careful removing this. So what we do is take a little screwdriver under these lips and pull at the same time as you're prying it out. If you don't do that, there's instances where it just pops out and you end up throwing this across the room, and you don't want to do that. So you just slide it out. Now we want to read the 0.86 side. So we give it a 180-degree turn. So the 0.86 is pointing towards you again. You drop it in there, same thing, squish it in with the body, and then you wait for this unit to stop moving. And we should hope to be plus or minus 0.86. For learning purposes, that was way out to lunch, and we have to calibrate it. So what you got to do is you got to pry this out again and turn it to the zero side. So you look at it, make sure you put the zero towards you, put this back in, and then you use your controls on this unit. So first you hit the top button until it says calibration, sensor calibration. You hit the bottom one, advance. Our code is 000, advance, and we're using a dry calibration standard, yes. We hit enter again, and we got to make sure we made sure our zero is pointing us, so we hit enter one more time. Then we wait for it to calibrate on zero. And then after a few seconds, it'll tell us to move on to the next step. So now it tells us to use the 0.86 side of the dry standard, so you got to pry it out and flip the block out again. Pull that out, give it the 180-degree turn so that the 0.86 is on you. And then now we hit enter again to calibrate that standard, and then calibrating span. Then once we've received the calibration complete, we hit the previous button to go through the menu until you get to the main screen, which is right there. Now that we're done our calibrations, we can remove the standard and make sure it goes right back into its protective case right away. Now these standards are created for a specific unit, so you cannot interchange these from unit to unit. This unit is calibrated for this unit, and you can only use it on this unit. We can reinstall our wiper unit, making sure that this tab's lined up with the tab inside. And same thing, you want to push it into place, wiggle it until it goes down, and then tighten the cap. Once that's all done, Close your drain valve on the unit and open your water supply slowly to not produce any hammering to fill up the cell. We want to make sure we calibrate our online turbidity meter at least once a month or as directed by your health authority.